Guys, welcome back. I've got Henry Torano and Sam Smith with me today. We got the trio, or perhaps the threesome, as some people like to call it. You can perceive that however you'd like. We are going to talk today about how people take in information, digest it, perceive it, or find meaning in it, and then ultimately that leads to the actions that they take behind it. And let's put a little bit of context around this thing in a fitness or a nutrition or a lifestyle context. Your perceptions of things will lead to how you make decisions about moving forward in progress. And Sam and Henry every single day are helping people understand their own perceptions, not change the perceptions, but just understand how they kind of see the world. And so I wanted to ask these guys their opinions on this so that you as a listener can really understand maybe how you are seeing these things and how you can make maybe some better decisions over time. So let me kick it off to Henry first. Henry, how would you sort of define like the process of something happens, or you see something or hear something or whatever? What is the process that ultimately leads you to taking action on, let's call it that sensory input?
Yeah, I'd say that there's two parts to that. One of them is the facts, like the objective truth of what's actually happening. And then the other part is what that means to you, or how you feel about, that input that's coming in. That entire process of I'm seeing something and I'm interpreting it this way is what we call the filtered reality of it. And we hear that and we talk about that quite a bit in a lot of what we do in application to coaching. That's the number one determining factor, and it's really determined by the person's experiences, and where they've been and what they've been through, and how those certain realities make them feel.
Are you saying that if you asked 100 people how they interpret something, you could get 100 different answers?
Yeah, for sure, to some degree.
I think that that's a profound thing for us to start this whole conversation with, is that even me asking Henry this question, he's perceiving that slightly differently than Sam would be, which would be slightly different than any of our other coaches. And a lot of our clients, I know when they come in, they perceive things differently than we do. And some of the things that you guys do is to just try to understand how they see the world so that you can help them interpret how they're making some of the decisions that are either leading to success or failure, et cetera, et cetera. So Sam, based on people's filters, how do you help somebody recognize those filters, or how do you help them make those filters more conscious?
Well, I'll take the avenue of, or let's use an example. Let's say somebody has a chronic, or not a chronic, but a reoccurring back problem of some sort. They do something and their back bothers them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm done. I shut down the session. My back's bothering me." It's like, okay, so let's introduce some protocol, help it, subside, get back on track, et cetera, et cetera. And say over the course of 4 months, it happens once a month, and maybe the timing is specific, and we start to see a pattern, but they're not really aware of the pattern. So in conversation, I'll start to ask them, "Hey, do you notice that this has happened consistently during this time of the month, or during this time in your life, or whatever it might be, whatever the pattern is?" And then they might take a moment to be like, "Yeah, you know what? I do see a pattern there. Yeah, so maybe your back issue is not necessarily a mechanical thing, but maybe it's tied to something else that we don't know for sure yet what it is, but it's something to recognize." And then they start to think, "Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe that is the case." And so during this process, I'm trying to help them move their awareness away from the back, because of course it's going to be hypersensitive to the back because of the pain and whatnot. And then if I can shift it acutely away from that, we can start to get things back to normal more quickly. And then along with that, we're having conversation to help them create a plan of action if something comes up that might cause the back to flare up again. So maybe when they're preparing for competition 2 weeks out, there's always a back thing. So when we're getting to the 2-week mark, we have a conversation. Hey, let's remember that, stress is a little heightened right now. We're a little anxious. Let's remember what's happened in the past, and also remember that there might be a propensity for you to have something come up that isn't necessarily mechanically derived, but could be psychosomatically derived. We don't have to go like with that verbiage or anything, but you know what I mean there.
Yep.
Just trying to help them realize that let's just be mindful of our training, stay focused with that, controlling our controllables, so that if this does come up, we can nip it in the bud really quick and get back on track with those last 2 weeks of the training, or even bypass it altogether because we came up with a plan to work around it.
Tough question here for both of you guys. If you guys coached 100 clients, how many of those 100 clients day one would be conscious of those patterns or those filters?
Man, I'd say it's hard. I'd say it's hard to put a number, like a percentage of it on it, but very few.
Okay. Why do you think that people are not very aware of it? So let me have you not say not aware, but why are they not as aware as maybe they could be?
I just think awareness is an issue for a lot of people, and not wanting to think more than you need to, or you feel like you should about things. Oh, it's just back pain. It happens. It goes away. It goes away in 3 days. There's no need to worry about it. Just endure it for 3 days. Never mind that this has happened 38 times in your life, and you feel like shit for 3 days times 38 times.
Yeah.
It's just that extra step in thinking where like, no, I just don't have time for that. And maybe it's a dumb example with the back pain and what I just said, but that applies to everything. Why can I lose weight? Why do I feel depressed every time like this kind of thing happens? Why do I crumble under pressure? All of those things that, oh yeah, well maybe I'm just not meant to do this or that, or that's just how it is, and not wanting to see the facts and see the truth, really.
It's interesting that brings up the idea that it kind of two pieces. A lot of people ask really destructive questions, which makes them then focus on the negative thing. So for example, let's keep with this back issue. If I ask myself the question, like, why the fuck does my back hurt all the time? I'm probably going to come up with 50 answers, right? Like, but I'm then going to focus on my back. It hurts, as opposed to what you guys, I believe, are saying is you start to make them aware of the situations or the outside stress or the environment that perhaps is creating back pain. If they can fix the outside environment by focusing on it, they're not focusing on the back, which likely reduces the amount of pain. And they're also then taking care of the underlying issue as opposed to just treating symptoms. Is that kind of what you guys are saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what are some of the things that get in people's way, whether it's on the awareness side or whether it's on the actionable improvement of, again, I'm going to stay with the back issue, right? Like, what gets in people's way when this happens? And Henry said time first, but what are some of the things you guys have noticed from your clients?
Adversity, for sure. Anytime this comes up, it's a challenge. It's usually not a welcome challenge because you're not expecting it. Not like if you go into a competition or a game or any type of sport, that you're going to have to overcome a challenge. This is something that just happened and came up to kind of ruin your day. So let's go into like a non-sports or physical scenario, like this entire COVID situation. This is not good for anybody. And we can, maybe for Rogue, because they're making so much money. But they didn't expect it. Everybody's having to do something that they would not like to do and they were not set up to do originally.
Mm.
So you need to deal with it, and the biggest challenge is in deciding, am I going to let the thing happen to me, or am I going to like go up to it and stick it, right, and figure out how to do something about it. Obviously letting it happen is a path of least resistance and hoping that you survive. So again, it just goes back to it's easier, and I'd rather not do it.
It's almost it's kind of, if we know that virtually everybody is hesitant to change, and something happens that we don't want to change, we will probably push back against whatever is changing, whether it's injury or whatever, which might make us more unconscious. It also makes me think about kind of the hero's journey, right? Which is, I'm going to try to take the path of least resistance until I have no other choice but to take massive action towards fixing what the real issue is. How, and Sam, I want to ask you this one. How do you take somebody and help them take massive action before it's the only choice they have?
I'd probably say helping them become very clear with our objective or our goal. So if that's really clear, that, you think of a pyramid. If the base is really strong, then it makes it really easy to climb it all the way to the top. So if I can really help them set the foundation, then we can almost unconsciously organize everything that needs to go into that being achieved. Like there's a lot of little things that you don't think about that start to happen because it's part of you aligning everything towards the vision or the goal. And as a result, I believe that builds resiliency or anti-fragility, where they are less prone to getting in a situation like that. And even if it did happen, they have a little bit more of a shield built to withstand that little bump if it came up.
Would you guys say that this happens quickly, or this is, like Sam is saying, this really does take steps and milestones? In your experience, and I know that it depends person by person, but like, when is somebody typically able to say, oh, I'm recognizing my own pattern of when my back hurts? And let's just, a different example, my ankle hurts every 6 months, or you know what I mean? Like, when would you say that they are more capable on their own to be aware of these things?
Well, I would say the rate varies, because I have some clients who are games level athletes who it's taken them 5 or 6 years to get to a point where they're actually really aware of their tendencies in higher stress situations and competition, and the words and the body language and the thoughts that they use that are ultimately dictating how they perform it and where they place. So it's taken them a lot of time. Now, granted, I wasn't with them for 5 years, but it's taken them personally that much experience and discussion and adversity to get to the point where they've started to recognize things on their own, and now they're more aware of those triggers, we can say, so that they can kind of slowly let them die, and then now become a more resilient athlete or human. And whereas some people, you have a couple conversations with them, and you start to almost switch things really quickly, and now it's not a problem. So,
how do you, whether they are faster or slower, how do you help them get there sooner?
I'll take this one if you don't
yeah,
mind.
go ahead.
I like to ask the questions that they're afraid to ask themselves.
Perfect.
So like you want them to reason it for themselves, but they're running away from the things or the questions that will make them face the reality. So like make them go through the process. Okay, so there's this. So what do you think about this? Do you think that this is good for you? Do you think this is better over this other option? And make them go to that path where there is a little more resistance. and they're going to have to, make the call and be responsible for, like, no, I'm just going to lay down and roll over, or I'm going to make this happen.
I love that. Let's end it right there, guys. That to me is coaching, and obviously I couldn't be any more biased in your guys' camp. But as somebody who wants to get better, whether it's fitness, wellness, performance, whatever, ultimately you have to learn how to be accountable to yourself. And a coach shouldn't just be answering the questions for you. They should be helping you become autonomous and accountable. So let's just leave everybody with that, is start asking yourself some of those questions and see how you start responding to some of those answers. Do you run away? Do you cower? Do you go at them head on, etc.? And then probably at that point, you'll want to talk to Sam or Henry or somebody else in the coaching arena, because the amount of progress that you can enjoy is almost limitless, when you've got somebody advocating for you. So guys, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate this. I love doing the trio. Let's just leave it at that language. Yeah. So thanks guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.